Hi everyone, Nothany Laugh Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Paramore album, This Is Why. This is a brand new LP from Tennessee alt-rock and pop-punk veterans, Paramore, who have undergone quite the metamorphosis as of late in terms of the creativity and cohesion of the band. There have been multiple lineup changes, as well as core members, Hayley Williams and Zach Farrow, each respectively focusing on solo or side project material, but that has not stopped the band itself from boldly evolving forward, at great risk of completely alienating their longtime fanbase. First with the surprising switch the band brought to the table on 2017's After Laughter, where they tastefully toyed with shades of new wave, synth pop, and alternative dance, successfully beating the wave of 80s revivalism that's been raging for a few years now in the mainstream, and doing it with a modern punch and a lot of great songs too. And now they're shaking up things again with This Is Why, which thrives more off the aggressively moody vibes of indie rock, along with some peppy dance punk ragers in the mix too. With this one, Paramore is simultaneously taking big notes from the early works of bands such as Block Party as well as Metric, which is funny because Paramore creatively was in such a different space when records like Silent Alarm as well as Live It Out dropped, and now this new LP here is suddenly more well received than anything either of those two bands have put out in years. Because it's not exactly like Paramore is pulling from a bygone era on this LP creatively, but I get that it may feel that way due to the wind that once filled the sails of the mid-aughts indie wave has pretty much fizzled out. A downward trend you would also think Paramore would be suffering through in their own way, given that they existed along a similar timeline, even if they were in a very different space creatively. But as the band transitions into a new decade, they sound just as dynamic and passionate as ever. And just like with After Laughter, even listeners outside of the Paramore fanbase are eating it up. This Is Why is a catchy and tight 10-track, 36-minute listen, and I believe it to be one of the strongest records in Paramore's discography so far. What it lacks in length and shimmer, it makes up for in rawness and blunt force, consistency as well. Take the opening track, for example, which I think is a perfectly crafted piece of pop-friendly post and dance punk. From the low, groovy, tension-building verses to the pounding drums and panoramic gang vocals on the hook, this is possibly one of the best tension releases that you'll hear in any rock song this year. Plus, I love the lyrics that express a palpable fear and anxiety around the outside world's opinions and tribalism. The following track, The News, also conveys a frustration and heightened anxiety with the state of the world outside, and overexposure to its horrors through a vulturistic news media. The song makes a pretty simple recommendation about this: turn off the news. But simultaneously, Hayley screams on this track about feeling helpless and useless in the midst of all of these terrible things behind a computer. The track portrays this struggle between feeling ignorant toward the terrible things happening in the world, but simultaneously thinking of the trade-off that comes with being informed by the news, that it normalizes, skews, and poisons the well around so many essential conversations. The following track, Running Out of Time, is a really smooth and danceable piece of pop rock with some sharp rhythm guitars, dreamy verses. This track sounds the most like it could have fit snugly into the track list of After Laughter, though I think the slightly grim effects and aesthetics on the song make it fall in line with pretty much everything else here. Along with the mundane and kind of dystopian descriptions of everyday life, running late, spilled coffee, constantly stressed, constantly running out of time. And I suppose you could take this song as just one more example of social stressors being vented about on this album. Following this, there's C'est Comme Ça, which I thought was just okay when I initially heard it as a single. I do enjoy its shouty choruses and synced up guitar leads. Those have grown on me since I originally heard it. But structurally, I feel like this track isn't really given the same love and care that many other songs here are. The production also sounds weirdly rougher than it is on the rest of this LP. But the closing vocal refrains on the track are super catchy and essentially bring home the song's very interesting message in regards to calculated, methodical, and sometimes chemical approaches to addressing emotional imbalances and mental health. And I suppose Hayley feeling numbed as a result of that and wanting instead at least a certain degree of disorder to, I don't know, thrive, feel alive. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, there is an implication there, but given we just have one real spoken word verse with a minor chorus interruption on this track, it's a bit vague. There could have been more added to the sentiments of the song lyrically. Big Man Little Dignity is a smooth piece of slightly ethereal synthy pop that I think also could have complemented the After Laughter track list. Instrumentally, I think this track could have even been on one of Haley's recent solo excursions. We have an instantly catchy chorus on this one laced with glossy synthesizers, and verses that paint a character portrait of a total scumbag with no integrity, who Haley can't seem to get out of her sights or her mind because he keeps succeeding and thriving in a world that I guess just has no repercussions for him. Then with the track You First, I think one of the most gripping lyrics right at the front end of the song hit me. Thought I'd simmer down as I got older. Can't shake the devil sitting on my shoulder. Haley later goes on to admit deep levels of pettiness and a want for revenge on the song too. Wanting to revel in the defeat of this person who she has in mind. Damn. The rage on this track is thick, and I think this is some of the realest shit on the entire record. And the band brings a fiery performance to prove it. I also love that jazzy kind of descending melody line on the vocals that hit, I think, on the pre-chorus too. Like a stray animal. And for those who have thought that old Paramore, due to records like this, was just kind of long dead, look at the chorus on this track too, because it's as large and as anthemic as anything from their back catalog. I think Figure 8 scratches a similar itch in that respect too, as Haley's vocals burn through a blackened sky of wailing and distorted synthesizers and rhythm guitars. From here we have a pretty decent final leg on the record. There's the very sullen and low-key Liar, which is where I think some of the sad metric vibes on the LP come through the strongest. For sure, this LP needed a low-key moment or two, but I feel like the hook on this one melodically is pretty toothless. The performance going from end to end on the track is kind of unceremonious as well. Meanwhile, Crave is like a very mid-paced, jangly rocker with kind of a soft edge on it. It does have a cool progressive build on the back end, but its dreamy and washed out hooks aren't exactly the highest impact, and I just feel like I don't know what this track brings to the table that all the other rockers on the record don't already. But Thick Skull I do think serves as a very strong finish to the album. It is a strongly depressive, strung out ballad to tie things up with a lot of heavy, powerful rhythms and pianos. Haley's performance vocally is especially pained, and that's not hard to see why when you dig into the lyrics, as she paints this cyclical attraction to very broken and dysfunctional people who she sees herself falling in with again and again and again and again, kind of attributing her inability to get past this to her thick skull. A very crushing and heart-wrenching realization. But yeah, I thought this record was really good, really consistent, good songs, great performances, fire production, a tasteful blend of post-punk and dance punk and alternative rock and pop and dance. In one breath, you could call this one of the band's most mature albums to date, but simultaneously it's one of their most explosive and passionate too, showing that you don't need to necessarily tone things down in order to go in a more artsy, abstract, or, I don't know, adult direction. Liking this, and I'm going to leave it there, feeling a decent 8 on this one. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Paramore, forever.